All right, everybody, we've got the news of the day for you. It has set Twitter ablaze, and everybody's got a comment. Of course, I'm talking about Sam Hauser with that 4-year, $45 million extension. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to touch a little bit on Team USA here. Is Team USA in trouble? Stick around. This is Green with Envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Ware checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me today, Papa Bear is back in the mix. First time, just the two of us on the podcast here in a minute. But of course, we've got my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only, Greg Menakis. What is good, Papa G?
I was going to say, do we have the official sponsorship from Papa Gino's yet? Shout out to our guy, Fred, who said that we should have a segment called Papa Gino's, sponsored by Papa Gino's.
And there's a Gino time reference in there as well. Like, Papa, yeah, if somebody's listening on this that's got the plug to Papa Gino's, to their marketing, like, let's make this happen. I feel like there's a lot of synergy here that we can make happen. We're happy to do. You know what would be really cool, Greg, is if somehow we make this happen. Hold on. I got something for you that I think is going to be great. I think you were going to say something about free Papa Gino's. I would love that as well.
I was going to say free cheesy bread.
I'll take that. Would also be great. We'll take anything we can get. But, you know, we grew up. I mean, what would you say on, like, once we were from the ages of maybe, let's say 11 to 16, 17, what would you say on average? How many times per month were we at the Papa Gino's on Galvin Boulevard?
Oh man, I mean, summer times it was definitely. I would say it was every other day, honestly.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So there was growing up in Dorchester. Let me just kind of paint the picture where we're from. So we're from like the Irish Catholic part of Dorchester, where everything's by parishes. You got St. Anne, St. Brendan, St. Greg, St. Mark's. We were St. Anne's kids. And then there were different like crews around that time. There was like the Totlot crew. There was the Garvey Park crew. And then we were part of the Papa Gino's crew. Shout out to like Pat Leonard and Danny Ryan and Scott Steinbeck and all those kids. But we kind of hung out with them, and we would just hang out around Papa Gino's all the time. And man,
the jukebox,
the cheesy bread, the dollar slices, like all that stuff was good. The root beer, the mug root beer. Let's go.
So Papa Gino. So if we got a plug out there, loop us in. We want to make this happen. We'll come up with the name. Papa G knows, you know, advice of the day or something. We'll figure it out. Make it happen, guys. Let us know. Slide into the DMs. We want to work it out. We want to make something happen. But Greg, I know we got a tight window here with you, so let's just get right into it. Okay. Speaking of getting it done, the Celtics continue to get it done this offseason. Kind of felt like we were going to hit a lull. Literally woke up this morning not knowing that I wanted us to record or I wanted to put something out there. Was struggling to think through what we were going to talk about. And then lo and behold, Wick, Brad, front office crew, while they still own the team, get it done. Keep on spending the cheddar. Sam Hauser collects a bag here, a 4-year, $45 million extension that kicks in after this upcoming season. So for at least the next 5 years, Sam Hauser is now on the books. And basically everybody in that Celtics main rotation outside of Al Horford is now back officially on the books through the 25-26 season, where, as we talked about with Keith Smith a few episodes ago here, that tax bill is looking like it's going to be somewhere around $225 million or so. So for that team in general, you're looking at about a $450 million team, maybe just shy of that. We'll see what the numbers work out to. But Greg, let's just start here. Give me your initial thoughts. Sam gets the bag, 4 years, $45 million.
Initial thoughts were congratulations to Sam Hauser because, you know, he kind of bet on himself with his first contract with the Celtics, where he was, you know, getting paid a pittance for the last 3 years of playing pretty high level ball. A pittance?
A pittance. Ooh, that's a word of the day. Never heard that before.
Pittance. Pittance.
And something new. All right.
A measly, meager amount of money.
Noted.
But anyways. I digress. Sam Hauser, congratulations on that. That's great. I think with Sam, shotgun Sam, sniper Sam, I think that when you think back a couple years ago, before he was a regular in the rotation, you were always calling for Sam Hauser, right? You wanted this prototype of a player, and the Celtics missed out on a couple of guys. Max Strus being a name that has been out there. Desmond Bain, obviously, that the Celtics traded in the draft. But I think with Sam Hauser, the fact that he has become this developmental success story for the Celtics, and that they're willing to invest in that while also having a contract on the books that is tradable, because there aren't many tradable contracts on the books, because as we know with the second apron, we will not be able to put salaries together, right? But we could, for example, trade Sam Hauser's $11 million, whatever it is, and get a $3 million and a $6 million coming back to us, right? So we could get two, save a couple million here or there. But in general, I'm excited that we have Sam, because you would hate to lose a guy like Sam Hauser, like the Miami Heat did with Max Strus.
Yeah, and this is honestly, like you said, I've been big on Sam for a minute because for a while the Celtics shot a lot of threes, and there wasn't really a guy that you could look at and say, "Oh, that guy is a knockdown three-point shooter." Now, things have changed over that time. Derek White has become an absolute sniper. Drew Holiday was over 40%. We know what the Jays, like I said, they're not necessarily your traditional just gravity because they have so much other offensive responsibility. But now when you add in a guy like Sam, who, last year had a career year, shot over 42% for three, I believe. I had this here earlier. He was sixth in the league in catch and shoot three pointers with 179 made catch and shoot three pointers. And you think about the gravity and spacing and the way that this team is set up. And to your point, Greg, about his development, right? Like, I really wanted what his skill set was as a sniper, as a guy that you put out there and you can't sag off, and that's just opening up the court for the Jays. That's always what this team is built around, is what does this player do to enhance the pillars, which is going to be the Jays. And Sam was a guy that gave him that space. But what makes his development story is not just his three-point shooting, because that was kind of what he came in being able to do. We saw him D'ing up Luka in the finals, right? Now I know Luka was, not at 100%, but Sam was holding up in isolation against a Luka Doncic in the NBA finals. Like, think about how, like, if I had told you that 3 years ago when he's in Maine and it's just a far off thought, like, hey man, this would be a really cool, like, food stamp version of Kyle Korver if we had Sam Hauser as like a viable rotation guy. And now in big moments in the NBA finals, he's guarding a top 3 player in the league and holding up and then allowing your defense to be able to, number one, get some rest, allowing him to come in and be a viable substitution through any part of any playoff series that we have, and then allowing the rest of your defense to maintain its integrity, because his development in Maine and then over these last couple of years has allowed him to be out there at almost any given time. And he's, towards the end of the season, I said, we think of the Celtics as like a big six, that no matter what, these six are there. I think it's really a big seven. Like, I think Sam is also a guy, and Peyton Pritchard's right in there where your top 8. But we knew that there was, especially out west, there was probably going to be a couple matchups where I don't know if this is going to be a Peyton Pritchard matchup. There's not a matchup where Sam Hauser isn't going to get an opportunity. And I think we saw that. And so now he's rewarded with this contract, which, like you said, it's a great job locking it in and giving yourself some roster flexibility down the line as well.
Yeah, because a lot of people, when the Celtics drafted Baylor Shireman, a lot of people thought that was signaling Sam Hauser's exit from Boston. Although Shireman's a lefty, does a lot of the same movement stuff that Sam can do. Probably not at the level that Sam can do, but has a little bit more to his game offensively than I think Sam does at this point. A lot of people were looking at that as the signal that Sam was heading out of Boston. But I think with the contract extension at 4 years, 45 million, to talk about the roster flexibility and the fact that it's a very tradable contract, the Celtics now have the opportunity to make a decision if Sam is the guy that they want to go. That contract will obviously be very valuable around the league. A lot of people would love to have a shooter like Sam Hauser who can play a little bit of defense at $11 million a year for the, through 2028 or whatever it's going to be, 2029. So, next year, Sam Hauser's making a couple $1 million, a pittance making making a couple $1 million. But then the year after that, when Al Horford's contract's off the book, Sam's number kind of slides into that Al number, and
Yeah.
then you can kind of make a decision like, maybe it's Porzingis that needs to go. Maybe the health just didn't turn around. We can trade Porzingis for a couple first round draft picks and a guy make it $8 million. Oh, Porzingis actually looked really great, so we're going to keep Porzingis. Maybe it's Drew. Maybe he ages in dog years over the next couple of years, and you realize that maybe it's Drew's time to go. Maybe it's D White. Maybe it's Jalen. You know what I mean? Maybe it's Tatum.
Yeah.
It's never going to be Tatum, but maybe. And I think that this flexibility that the Celtics have put themselves in a position with Peyton Pritchard's contract, with Sam Hauser's contract, two guys that have proven they can play at the highest level, although they both have flaws. When you're at the 6th, 7th, 8th guy in a rotation around the league, everybody's going to have some flaws. And Sam Hauser at least is an elite marksman. So, that's going to be very valuable on the open market. And I think that the Celtics did a great job. If they decide they want to keep Sam, they have him at a very, very reasonable number where they can get creative in other ways.
Yeah, and one of the things with Sam Hauser is that the Celtics are going to be very limited, as we're talking about, in their flexibility to add guys should there be injuries. So a lot of the Celtics bringing back everybody is kind of a bet that Porzingis is going to be a question mark. Al's a bit older, but that everybody else is generally going to stay pretty healthy. And that's something Sam's been really good at over the last 2 years. Played 80 games in 22-23, played 79 games last year. I still remember, Greg. I think it was must have been the end of the regular season for 22-23, and we were doing a podcast. And you asked me, how many games do you think Sam played? Like, I still remember this very vividly because I was like, I don't know. He probably played like 67 games. He played in 80 games. Like, I still remember how shocked I was that 2 years ago, Sam had already been in 80 out of 82 potential games. Like, that kind of blew my mind. And so the Celtics really need for these, he's more than a back end guy, but these non-starters, the Celtics need these guys to be available because as Al gets older, as KP gets older, as Drew gets older, and the Jays, they have so much responsibility. That there's always going to be potential that, if Jaylen Brown misses 2 weeks with a rolled ankle, like that's just a normal thing that happens to most players. Like, we're lucky that we have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, who very rarely get hurt. But these nicks and bruises, especially as you see a quarter of the Celtics are out there for the Olympics right now, like that takes a toll. And so you need guys that are going to be available, be reliable. And that's what Sam Hauser brings you, above just all the other metrics that we're talking about, with his shooting, with his defense. And so, hey, while Wick's got the checkbook, he's not afraid to keep doling it out. So this team continues to be expensive. They're going to be easily the most expensive team in NBA history the year after this next upcoming season. And we'll have to see what that looks like. I think how this plays out with the ownership and what's going to happen there, that will dictate some things. But I think that's part of why Wick wants to try to manipulate this sale and stay on board in some form or fashion as team governor so that it doesn't feel like, hey, we're just selling the team and then it becomes a fire sale to save all these pennies. So it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like. We know next season we're locked in, bringing everybody back. I think the year after next is when it really starts to get interesting, and especially if the Celtics find themselves back in the NBA Finals, they win a championship again. It's going to be hard to break this team up, but I do think that they've set themselves up as best they can to have that flexibility that we've talked about here. Anything else you got on Sam here, Greg, before we go to
Yeah,
the Team USA Celtics?
I was just thinking about some other players around the league that are more or less in the same, you had mentioned in the same sentence, same breath as Sam Hauser, and kind of comparing some contracts.
Yeah.
As I'm talking, can you look up what Max Strus got last year?
Yeah.
So, I think Sam Hauser probably lives somewhere between these two players that I'm going to bring up right now. And then I also want to bring up Strus, but Buddy Hield, right? Buddy Hield, sign and trade going to the Golden State Warriors to replace Klay Thompson. So he's making around $9.5 million a year through 2028. Okay. So Sam's making a little bit more than Buddy Hield is. Klay Thompson, who Buddy Hield is replacing, is making $50 million over 3 years, and then Sam, 4 years, 45. And then what we got for Max Strus?
And so Max is right about 15. He's about 4 years, 62, 63 million. So he's about 15 to 16 annually.
Right. And if you think about this prototype of player, like Sam is, he's right there with the elite movement shooters. How many
Yeah.
like would you honestly would you rather have Sam Hauser at 11 million or Klay Thompson around 17? Like at this point,
I
I don't
mean,
even know what the
this
answer to
version
that
of
question
Clay, like,
is.
it's at least a debate, right? Like, I
Right,
think
right. Like Clay's a better
it's
player. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
yeah.
Sam's better. It's just like the number.
Exactly, and I think it's the high end of what Clay still could potentially pull out of the bag. You'd probably go with Clay, but
Mhm.
you're not very far off, right? Like you're in the
Right.
same ballpark, and so I think you're totally correct in bringing up these levels of guys because that's where Sam is. This is the sniper range that he lives in, and when you think of all of these guys defensively, you know, and we have to think of Clay in this version of Clay. We know Pete Clay Pete Clay's a star, right? He's not even in this
Mhm.
category. But
Yeah.
this version of Clay, when you look defensively, like I'd put Buddy Hield at the bottom. I'd probably
Mhm.
put Max Strus at the top. I think Max Strus can give a few guys. We've seen him give trouble on occasion. And then I think it's Clay and Sam right in that middle. And like Sam is still, if you're not locked in like we are to the Celtics, and I think a lot of people were very surprised to see that he didn't get torched when he got put into ISO situations with Luka. Like Sam's right there in the middle of those guys if we're looking at defensively. So when you think about bringing him in for 11 million as you laid out all the contracts, like that's a really good value. That's a really good value. And as this cap continues to grow in this new deal, like that's only going to look more and more attractive. And so even if it's not, and this part of this, what happens with Sam might depend on how Baylor Shireman continues to grow in his evolution. He's a few years younger. You've got him on that rookie deal. So I think after, maybe the first 2 years, you might look at it and say, can Sam Hauser be our Alex Caruso? Obviously different players. I'm talking about from a contract perspective, where I think the Bulls fumbled it because the Bulls fumble fucking everything. It seems like I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they still get
But they
Giddy
got
back. Who I think
Buzelis.
Giddy has. What's that?
They got Buzelis though. It looks
They got
pretty good.
Buzelis. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But I think in terms of Caruso, where he had like a $9 million contract this year, and it's like, man, if you really wanted to have a bidding war, like it was going to take you one or two first round picks and like $9 million player. Like Sam could theoretically, for down the line, be a guy that, like you said, maybe you get another cheaper $3 million second year player plus some type of protected first round pick. Like that could be the value of Sam in 2-3 years if you feel like maybe Baylor can like step in to that role. And so it just adds to that flexibility that the Celtics are going to have. And I think it's a good price point based on some of the other comparisons that we're looking at for Sam.
Yeah, and if you think about like the development of Celtics players and the ability for so many different guys on the roster to hit three-pointers, let's just say there's a team out there that really needs a marksman, and the Celtics have
Mhm.
like 7 or 8 guys on the team that can shoot, and they're like, you know what, we might be able to trade Sam Hauser because this team over here that has an athletic big defensive big that they don't
Right.
necessarily need. I'm like thinking of like the Magic, for example. Like maybe there's a Wendell Carter Jr. down the line or somebody out there
Or
that
like a
we might.
Pistons that have like a Jalen Duren and
Right.
they got like 3 or 4 bigs, Isaiah Stewart, and you're like, well, we'll trade you our sniper for your big because we need it. And maybe that's a deal that can manifest
Exactly,
itself there.
exactly. So there's just a lot of flexibility. That's the word that we've used. We also
Yeah.
have used the word sniper like 6 times. And I'm like, this is live on X. Like, maybe not the best word to be using, especially when we have Team USA in trouble. USA in trouble, and we've said the word sniper like 7 times. So maybe we should
They
be
might
careful with that.
they might be catching just the end of that.
Yeah, a lot, a lot of news in U.S. politics today as well. So
Hey,
yeah,
maybe Sam Hauser will get the nomination. We'll see.
maybe
Maybe
he
that's what
looks
this is
the
all
part.
really
He looks
about.
the part.
Sam Hauser for president. I think that's where we end up with. But no, you mentioned Team USA. So let's transition from Sam Hauser and let's go over to Team USA, who had a really interesting warm-up game against South Sudan yesterday, in which the US pulled out a last second 101-100 victory over the South Sudan. Greg, I'm not gonna lie, I turned this game on figuring it was gonna be background noises. I wasn't really gonna pay too much attention to it. This game quickly grabbed my attention and had me locked in on a Saturday afternoon with a game that I did not expect to be obviously as close as it was. But the South Sudan played a great game. LeBron James gets the game-winning go-ahead basket with 8 seconds left after the U.S. comes back from down, I believe it was 14 points at halftime. Uh, Greg, do you think this is trouble, or what do you make of this game here from the US?
I don't know what the hell Steve Kerr's doing. Like what
Tell
like
me more.
what would you say is a lineup that you would just like to see on the court that you probably haven't seen enough of thus far? And obviously Kevin Durant would probably be in that lineup, but he's been
Right. Well, let me start here with I understood it for like the first game when you're getting your feet wet and they were just kind of doing the full line shifts. Can we please get some actual substitutions and mix it up to see what these lineups are? Because that's driving me nuts with just the 2 5-man rotations that we're doing.
Mhm.
Like, I want to see some actual coaching at some point. Like I said, I got it for the first night. I was like, all right, this is their first game. Let's see. But now 3-4 games in, it's like, can we actually see some coaching? Because there been anything that you guys have worked on that we've
Right.
mixed up these lineups a little bit. And, I think it starts with like, I always knew Steph, LeBron, and KD, if he's healthy, those feel like the 3 guaranteed starters on this team. Embiid has seemed to be in that group for Steve Kerr. Don't really get that. Anthony Davis has probably been the best player on this team through the warm-up rounds. Like consistently, I think AD
Yeah,
has probably performed the best on this team.
I'd agree
But
with
from
that.
a lineup that I haven't seen that I think I would like to see, I kind of want to see this team go honestly like really, really big. So like kind of like a Steph, Tatum, Anthony Davis, LeBron, and maybe like I would say maybe Ann Edwards would be either Ann Edwards or Holiday. That would probably be kind of a lineup that I would like to see. Ann Edwards, I think, has been great. He's been assertive for a team that at times they've been almost passing the ball, overpassing a little bit. But I think at
Mhm.
times Ann Edwards has probably been a little too aggressive given all of the collective
A
talent.
little.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's an understatement to say
Ant's a
that.
chucker, man. Ant's a
Um,
chucker out there for Team USA.
yeah, he is a little bit. But I think that would probably be a lineup I would look at. So Steph, LeBron, let's go Tatum, let's go AD,
And Durant.
um, and Durant. Yeah, and Durant. If Durant's out there, that's what I think the starting lineup should be if Durant's healthy. Like that to me is what on paper should be the starting lineup. And then you go really big with shooting, with playmaking, with versatility, and then you get AD protecting the rim, and then you have LeBron and Tatum who can also protect the rim and are great rebounders as well.
Yeah, and then to your point, you don't sub 5 in, 5 out when it actually matters. Like if that's your starting lineup, because I think that's probably their best, most versatile lineup that works for FIBA basketball.
Yeah.
But you don't have a traditional one, you don't have a traditional 2 guard in that lineup, and you also don't have a traditional stopper in that lineup
Mhm.
on the wings, right? Which is why I think you've seen a lot more Drew Holiday. Like I think
Yeah,
Drew
Drew's
might
been
just
really
start
big on
for
this
this
team.
team. Drew just might
Yeah,
start for this team. He'll definitely close for this team just with his defense. Um, but yeah, I mean, Tatum hasn't played well. I think I don't think he's been great. I think he's looked like shit, to be honest with you. I think Ant and Booker don't look like they fit in that spot. I like with that 2 guard off the bench, like the Booker thing, man. When you compare him and his lack of defensive ability and physicality, and I don't just like fit on the team, and you just look at Jalen Brown and what he would be able to do just as a bigger defender, it's like
mhm.
I don't know who's the better fit for the team, honestly. Like, is Jalen actually the best fit of those 3 2 guards? Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, Ant's been okay. I just don't like the decisions he's been making on offense. Way too many shots out of him. And I think that's the role they probably want him playing. But I think
Right.
he's leaned way too heavily in the direction of, oh, I'm just the scorer, so I'm going to shoot every time. Um, but yeah, I mean, Embiid's been trash. Every time
Horrible.
he's in an action, he
Horrible.
looks awful. There was one
Dude can't
thing
handle a double team. There's not a single double team that he has passed out of correctly, I don't think.
yeah, it does seem like what they're trying to do, though. They like the 3-man combination of Embiid, Steph, and LeBron, and I think they're
Mhm.
trying to get more actions there. Like you're seeing a lot of empty side, like grenade dribble handoff. So grenade is when like the big man comes up to the 3-point line and hands off to the guy coming towards the baseline, and then they go like empty side pick and roll with Steph getting Embiid rolling into the elbow area. And they started to run that a little bit more. And it seems like Embiid has figured out the spacing and the timing on that. But his decision making, he's such a plotting big at this point that I just don't see him really working with the team. Like everything he
Yeah.
does, it's just so
It
laborious
takes
for
them out
him
of
to.
sync. It's
Yeah, it takes him out of sync.
completely
And AD
out
is
of
a better
rhythm.
player. AD is a better
Yeah,
player.
and it AD and Bam have been so much better, and I actually do like at times when they have the Bam and AD combo, just because like defensively that is really tough. I think
Mhm.
offensively it can get a little bit clunky with the two of them out there. But I think Bam and AD have held up so well. And this is the thing: if you get Kevin Durant back, I think it allows you so much more versatility that if you just have either Bam or AD out there as the big, that if you have the luxury of Tatum, Durant, and LeBron, who are all wings that are really kind of fours, they're really power forwards, like
Mhm.
you can play them and you're still basically playing a double big lineup with those type of guys, right? Or in theory, and you can play them together. You can play two of those guys. So you're double big where it's traditionally like a Bam and AD together. I think you could do it where it's Bam or AD, and then it's almost double big on the wing, if that makes sense, where you have
Yeah.
LeBron and KD or KD and Tatum or whatever it might be. But of course, KD has to get healthy and get out there.
For sure, and I think KD is gonna solve a lot of problems for the team, just with his
Which, by the
shooting,
way,
like,
I
Ta
believe he might play. So we're recording this on Sunday. He might play in the final warm up against Germany on Monday. I know it seemed like he
Mhm.
was close to play in this game against South Sudan that we're referencing, but I believe he might play by the time you're hearing this. So we might see what that lineup is. But just
I
want to
mean,
throw that out
Durant's the second best shooter on the team, and I think that that's the thing that the team is
there. Tell you what, it's not
missing.
Jason Tatum.
It's not Jason Tatum. I was gonna say Tatum needs to find his shot, like, oh my god.
Dude, he had some really open looks in the game the other day against the Sudan, and once he went driving downhill, he looked great again, and it
Yeah.
looked like the Tatum. He's been it's just been kind of crazy. Tatum going downhill in these warm up games, exhibition games, whatever, has looked fantastic. It's
Mhm.
been man, it's like that guy is a problem, and then when he takes a three, it's man, that guy's a little bit of a problem. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the other side of the coin, big time, and he's got to get that sorted out.
He needs to go to a shot doctor after the Olympics, man. That thing does not look good. Does not look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like when you that lineup, the preferred five that we threw out there, Steph, Tatum, LeBron, KD, and AD. If Tatum is able to shoot at a average clip, that lineup's going to be deadly. But if Tatum can't find his shot, they're going to have to pull him out of that lineup quickly. And I think it would probably be Drew Holiday just for defensive
Yeah.
sake. Like, and I just don't think Ant really fits, man. Like he needs the ball in his hands, and you would much rather have a LeBron Steph centric offense than an Ant centric offense. He's not a high level decision
Mhm.
maker at this point in his
I mean,
career.
even
So
Tatum's a better decision maker than Ant, obviously at this point. I do want to shout out that one decision that Steve Kerr made that I did agree with was in the second half of the South Sudan game, which I want to shout out this guy real quick. We'll see. I can get his name right here. Carlik Jones. That dude was awesome. I
Garlic
loved
Jones is
watching that
hooping.
guy. Dude, he was hooping triple double for him in this game, and he was just everywhere. And I really thought that floater, if he didn't go for the foul on Holiday, like he tried to kind of get to the line, I think if he went straight up, he probably. I just felt like that shot was going in. Once he went for the foul bait, and then that gave the U.S. the opportunity to get the rebound. Derek White had the block at the end of the game. And that's kind of where I wanted to get to was, Derek White obviously came into this team late, didn't get with the team until they were in Abu Dhabi, and is still kind of getting his feet wet. But second half of the game, as Steve Kerr's doing his hockey line shifts, he replaces Tyrese Halliburton with Derek White
Thank God.
in the second half. And you really saw Derek White, he had 5 assists in the second half of this game, only shot the ball once, but you felt his presence defensively and just having, once again, we've talked about it, and this was for me during the whole Kawhi, Derek White, Jaylen Brown discussion. Like, this is a guy that is a connector. He is a connector of all these stars, and you're going to need, whether it's a Tayshaun Prince from, USA teams of the past, guys that are going to be okay, just like, hey, I'm just going to play defense and I'm going to move the ball. Like, that's
Mhm.
what I'm going to do. That's what Derek White did in this game. And I think you saw both his impact and Drew Holiday's when this comeback was happening. South Sudan, especially with Carly Jones, was getting a lot of penetration, was really off the dribble, kind of making a lot of problems for the U.S. And so I think the combination of Derek White and Drew Holiday were a big reason why they were able to slow down South Sudan and then be able to eventually complete the comeback, even by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with Halliburton for Team USA. I didn't get why they thought he should just like be penciled into the roster. It just didn't make sense to me that they didn't even have like a competition for who would earn that
Mhm.
spot. They just kind of gave it to him on a
I mean,
silver
I think
platter.
so. I think for me, like I agree with you on one side. I think they're thinking of it because I don't think he fits for this team. I don't know what if he's not going to be a main ball handler. I
Right.
don't really think it makes sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
if he's going to be one of your main ball handlers, sure, because he played fairly well in the FIBA tournament last year, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it was like him, Ant, and Mikal Bridges that really stick out to me from last year's FIBA team. Like, Mikal Bridges, the guy that I think probably is a really good Tayshaun, like next level Tayshaun
Hmm.
Prince type of player for this team down the line, but that's a different conversation. But I think if Tyrese Halliburton isn't going to handle the ball, he doesn't really have a great fit for what he's going to do with this particular team. And, I think the main reason he's on the team is I think they view him and Ant as the bridge to the next Olympics, right? Like, there's kind of this hierarchy, which I was talking about this with S during our kind of breakdown, where there's the senior class of guys where like
Hmm.
LeBron, Steph, Kawhi, AD came back. It's like, all right, we're doing this all together one more time. Then you got this middle class of veterans who are still going to be here next for the next Olympics, and that's like the Tatum, Bam, Booker group, potentially Embiid, Derek White, like that group is now going to be there as veterans. And I think Tyrese Halliburton and Ant getting their feet wet. This is like the junior class that
I
is then
agree.
going to be that bridge. But I think from an actual on-court perspective, you're spot on. If Tyrese Halliburton's not going to be one of your main ball handlers, it's tough to really understand what he's going to contribute. And this is
But
why I think
but no, no,
he's
let
going
me
to
let me
find
ju let me
himself on
jump
the
in.
bench.
Let me jump in real
Yeah.
quick though, because I think with Halliburton saying this is my problem with Halliburton, this is my problem with Team USA and Grant Hill is that they're saying he is the guy that's going to be the next point guard of Team USA. Like I don't get it. I
Mhm.
know Halliburton can play, but you're making the argument as to why maybe he's not that guy because he needs to have a certain roster around him and a certain style of play around him where you see when guys get with Halliburton ball, it can look really good. Like I think he's had
Right.
a couple moments with Team USA where he's actually looked pretty good because when everyone's running with him, when everyone's looking to push the tempo, he's getting those early hit ahead passes, and there's just like people flying around 0.5 offense. I think that looks really good. But my problem is that Grant Hill is out here talking shit about Jaylen Brown and saying that he's not on the team because of roster fit. And it's like, okay, well,
Right.
let's think about the other guys on the team and roster fit. Like Ant Edwards is a fucking ball hog on this team. You're saying that you didn't want to bring Jaylen in because he might not be able to play a role. Ant Edwards is not playing a fucking role right now. Devin Booker isn't necessarily a great fit with the rest of these guys. It still comes down for me to like, why is Jaylen Brown just not getting a chance with Team
Mhm.
USA? And why are we just automatically giving it to guys like Devin Booker, to Tyrese Halliburton? When even Derek White, you see he just fits better with this team, which is, when I was going off about Jaylen Brown, in a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I don't have a problem with Derek White being on the team. I think it's going to be great for Team USA.
Yeah.
Every team is going to get better with Derek White. It's just like, why are we just penciling in some of these guys that I don't think I shouldn't even say pencil. They're getting written in pen as they are part of Team USA moving forward. And I just don't think they're necessarily good enough to be those guys. Like I
Mhm.
get Halliburton can play basketball. I like Halliburton's game. It's just I,
It's
I
it's
don't
it's
see
it's
I
a
don't see him on that
contradiction
level.
of the reasoning, right? Like,
Yeah,
of it's a fit thing, but then why do we have multiple guys that don't fit? Like, they don't make sense on
exactly.
this team. And Embiid and
And
Halliburton on two opposite ends of the spectrum stick out the most.
right, and I think I forget which pod you made this point on, but like part of the reason why Team USA needs Joel Embiid on this team is because if he wasn't on Team USA, he was going to go play for Team
For
France, and
France.
now you
Yeah.
just like made them a superpower, right? But Embiid has never been on Team USA in the past, right?
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
And
he's not.
and you have Jaylen Brown, who's been on Team USA in the past, Derek White, who's been on Team USA in the past, and you're just going to let this guy come on to Team USA when you have veterans of Team USA that want to play for you? Like
I
that
mean,
shit
Kawhi
doesn't
was
make
kind of
sense
the
to me.
same thing, right? As far as I mean, maybe there
Exactly.
was like a
Yeah.
junior team with Kawhi, but he wasn't part of any of these other runs. And I know, I mean, at least Steph even had some FIBA experience, right? Like, Steph hasn't been on the Olympic gold medal stage,
Which is
but Steph
crazy.
has been a part of FIBA before, or of the FIBA US team. So there is at least a little bit more connectivity to it. So yeah, it's interesting to see Grant Hill try to wordsmith his way around the setup of this team. But just focusing on the game from the other day, Sudan, the South Sudan to me was going to be, because they're in Pool C with the U.S.
Hmm.
So this was
Yeah.
looked at as like, okay, South Sudan and Puerto Rico, thank you guys for showing up. Serbia, U.S., they're going to take care of business. The gap from the world, man, it still blows my mind how much closer it is, and how much all of these decisions really matter. Because when you think about that '92 Dream Team, and I think just based on the collective talent, I think this is more talented than the Redeem team. I think this current version is the closest to what that 92 Dream Team was, talent-wise, up and down the roster. Not saying that they're better. I'm just saying talent-wise, and at the end of the day, I think when we look at the collective achievements, this group is going to be closer to 92 than the Redeem team was. And, the gap from 92, where it was just a full-on exhibition, doesn't matter if we have lineups that work. Like, we're going to smoke everybody. That's not the case right now. This matters every single time, where a team like the Sudan that has, a couple of guys that, Wenyan Gabriel and JT Thor, and they've got some guys that played high-level D1 basketball, like, you fuck around, you're going to find out. And the U.S. came really close to finding out. So I do like that it might have been a wake-up call, but even the teams like Puerto Rico and Sudan that you want to write off in your pool play, the U.S. has got to show up every single game. And then when you factor in, the teams like Serbia, the teams like France, Germany, who they're going to have their final exhibition against, a few others that have multiple high-level NBA guys plus overseas professionals, like the U.S. is not going to cakewalk through this whatsoever, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited for the Germany matchup because Germany, correct me if I'm wrong, won the tournament last
They
year.
did. Yep.
Right. Yeah. So they've got a really good team. Schroeder plays great. They got the Wagner bros. So,
Don't forget about Daniel Tice.
And Daniel Tice, our guy, Daniel Tice. So I think that's a pretty good place to end, though, Will, because I gotta get running. Dad duty is calling. I hear.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up right here. We'll have some more coming. We have another bonus episode coming later this week, so stay tuned to that. But make sure you guys are following us along here on all of our socials. Subscribe to the YouTube page. We'll have more content throughout the summer, and then once the Olympics get going, opening ceremony is on the 26th. First game, the 28th, versus the Sudan, actually. So we'll have some coverage of that next week. But that's going to do it for this episode, and we will send you out of here with some Black Sheep Optimists. We will catch you guys later. Deuces.
It feels like summer, baby. Oh mama, feel like summer. New season got me seeing new colors. So fly, the sky will kiss you. Lips so smooth, I miss your issues. Oh mama, feel like summer. New season got me seeing new colors. Oh my, I'm slipping into white lies and time and rescue. Now you're 3 shots deep that you chase with the Croy. You're looking at me.